Oh, hi. Gray Fox here. We are the coaches of the NEM Mixed Martial Arts team. Head coach here, assistant coach Greg. Greg, talk a little bit about yourself.
My name is Greg. I'm the assistant coach. As Jimmy said, striking background. Started with karate and kung fu. Moved into Muay Thai and boxing. I'll provide the guys with a little bit of insight on the feet.
Mm-hmm. Then I was a bit of a wrestler. Grew up wrestling all around the world. Got to wrestle in Europe. Had a great time coming back stateside. Started the Mixed Martial Arts Club, and that's how Greg and I actually met over 10 years ago. Insane. So what questions do you guys have for us?
Well, just give us a little insight, where we're at, what we're doing, what happened today, Jimmy?
So today was supposed to be Gray Fox fight card, got downsized because of COVID phase 2. We just had a little Hapkido showcase. I got to fight the head instructor at Sleeping Lion. I ended up winning via submission. Still got caught with a few things, but hey, that's part of the game.
We had a couple other matches, a grappling match, which went well, ended with submission. We actually had it, not a knockout, but a knockdown for the striking competition.
Yeah, a little TKO.
Our Muay Thai fighter, he took control, took the knees, got his clinch, and ended it with the right hand, I believe. So
it was excellent. And then we had the current captain of NEMMA, Patrick Wolverine Williams. His opponent dropped out last minute, so Jack and myself just took him on in a round of kickboxing. So that was a ton of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You gotta talk to him though. He felt that little stainless steel, so he told me.
So you guys, this is kind of a bit of kind of going off the trail a little bit, but you guys have watched MMA, college MMA kind of develop over the past couple of years. Where have you seen it? How have you seen it develop, and where are you seeing it going in the next couple of years?
Do you want the truth? Or you want me to lie to you?
I would prefer the truth, but you do what you do.
I started out as scummy gets. I used to bribe the people at the field house to leave the door open so he and I could set up mats and fight kids. And then it went from that to getting legalized and becoming a sport club, becoming an intramural sport, and now NC2 and the NCAA and NUCA are all working to kind of get this booming. But, I mean, COVID's put a halt on a lot of that.
Do you see it becoming like a division sport, like Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 in terms of fighting?
Yeah, it's Division 1 and 2. 3 isn't big enough at the moment. They can't afford it because they have an open division, they have a novice division, and then gold is where the money is. So you have sponsorships, you have contracts where kids get out of college and they can fight for the UFC or Bellator. It's going to be very exciting. So there is a future in it. It's just evolved so much from when you and I were just a bunch of tough guys to now true martial artists.
Do you feel like the caliber of fighter is getting better because the system is getting more clean and efficient? Or do you think like a fighter's a fighter and they're always going to find places to fight regardless? Do you think you produce more fighters because you can pull athletes in and say, hey, you want to try this thing out in college? I can take you from some shit you did in high school and then get you to do this college sport now. Do you think that will diversify MMA in general? Because we're just going to have different flavors of athletes entering the sport now.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
Do you feel that MMA at the professional level is going to have more diverse talent now because it's going to become a collegiate sport and become more normal in the culture?
I think it might hit waves. Honestly, I mean, it's still small scale. We have NCAA. It's part of it. To answer the question from before, the change that I've seen is interest from the university side, from people who have the power to let us compete. I mean, we hit a lot of roadblocks early on. Nobody wanted us around. They didn't want to see people training. Now, it might be the money. It might
just the money.
It's on ESPN now. I mean, things are growing with the sport on a professional level. I think that it's helping out with the people who want to get into it. I mean, they have to find that next generation. College is the place to go. However, with UFC, with professional fighting, you'll have a champion that is the perfect blend of all arts. You'll have a guy who comes through and he's a specialist. He's a wrestler. You have your Khabib. You have your Israel Adesanyas. I think with college, it just depends on the roster, who's fighting at the times. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of diversity. You're going to have that voice of people who did train at their local gyms. They're going to come in. They're going to have a place to meet up, learn new arts, get that MMA base going, and then move from there. So I think that you're going to get this big coalition of guys just with ground game and boxing that they can punch and they can have a takedown, but it's going to be their flavor that is going to make them shine through these future events, which is exciting.
100%. I'm with it. I would tell you that we had to pay money. My parents have seen me dump thousands of dollars into martial arts, belt testing, seminars, all this stuff. And now what's nice is the kids that are captaining the club get paid to go weekly. They get paid to go to practice twice and coach, like Greg and I did for free for 6 years. The other big thing is if you win the college championship, you get your whole semester paid for. If you kids hear that, I can take a ballerina that didn't get to go pro and say, hey, I heard you're really good with kicks. Boom. You could take a guy that lost his wrestling scholarship or football scholarship, and bang, he's got a second chance at life. So right now they're making me the Southwest recruiter. I'll have Greg be the California recruiter. And we go to high schools and you just say, hey, all the kids that fucked up or lost their scholarships, let's give this a shot. You have a chance. So.
Well, it sounds like the interest and the desire for the sport is growing, but it also sounds like you guys have hinted at the challenges or barriers. What are some of the challenges or barriers that maybe this sport has with other growing sports and some that set it aside? Like, what makes it hard for this to grow?
The result is likely going to end in an injury for somebody. You can't go out and win points by scoring in another method. You have to physically hurt the other person, essentially. As martial artists, it's part of where the love comes from because we know how to train and take care of each other. However, liability reasons, no school wants part of it. That was the hassle that we had before, especially when you had to explain what the sport was. Now you can reference seeing it on TV, like I said.
That hence the whole, when you guys looked at each other earlier, then you said it's the money. It might be the money, and then you said it's the money. So if you're bringing money in, though, do you think they kind of just look over that? I say, because then they'll deal with the liability at that point if they know it's something that will attract more students and more money to the school. So concussions, injuries what's that? Concussions, injuries, stuff that will happen with football. And then they kind of look over all the injuries and all the other sports, high amounts of injury probably in football, and then look over because it brings them a lot of money to the school. It's a big recruiting tool for schools.
Yeah, I mean, football's dangerous, but we have a Rose Bowl every year and people celebrate it. And when we could, we'd go out to stadium. So, yeah, I think that with interest, with people coming to the university to see people compete, selling out a stadium, once you have that matching interest, I guess, that's, I think, where some of the hassle will fade away.
You're onto something though with that, Jack. The big thing is the money because Division II is just one team, Pennsylvania and us. What I would tell you is Division I's 11 teams, and they're all big money schools. ASU, you've got the Golden Knights from American Top Team. They get coached by the best team in the world. There's going to be money in this, and there's going to be sponsorships. I've been with Combat Corner for a little bit now, and it's nice because doing what I already do, running training videos, going to other gyms and competing, I get paid for now. Not a lot. It's only like, $30-$50 for this event. But the point is, it'll compound. The followers compound. The views compound. The reputation builds. So it's exciting stuff. It all started up. Again, I brought visuals, Baby Jack. With Chuck Liddell.
Sure, it started with Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, Chuck Liddell. So I'm, what am I, 15 in this? 16 in this? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I was.
Nice.
I had broken my ankle. Good stuff. This same ankle. Hilarious. And then I was showing Greg. I'm going to get him certified in CQDT. So they're for the military certifications, close quarters defense tactics. I teach a lot of military police, and I went to Tucson PD. They weren't having it. So I'll figure it out. We got instructor in modern weaponry. Baby Jack. Trying to show you I'm not just a crazy guy. I have real certifications. This is from my Ben Sensei. It's for teaching kids karate program. Lets me promote kids to junior black belt. And then my personal trainer certifications, NCT, or ACE, I should say, and NFPT. So,
nice.
Yeah. But I like to play a game with Greg. It's called Real and Not Real. Kind of helps me because sometimes things get loose and I'll mess up minor details. So check it out. That's legit, and I like what I do. So.
For sure. And for people who don't know, I mean, you guys talked about it briefly at the beginning of the video, but what was your story of founding one of the first MMA clubs in the United States?
That's it.
That's you? Okay. But what did that look like for you? And it's a broad question, but I'm just asking it to open the conversation up. What you coming to college, you wanted to have an MMA club. It wasn't something you'd seen at schools yet. Where were you at that point in your life? And what were your first steps to creating an MMA club on campus? You said briefly that you kind of would just bribe someone to go in a room with a couple guys and then it just compounded over time. I mean, how did you develop that culture?
Eerily similar to what we did tonight. We went as a team. It was me and 3 other guys, drove to Phoenix to go to a dojo and watch the head instructors fight. That was our thing. And I had heard of the head instructor down there. I was like, oh, he's from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. He's a beast. No, he's going to lose to this guy. we were training, we were loving the sport, but we wanted to go travel as a team, see the pros, see what the next chapter of our lives was going to be. And every one of those guys still fights. Kyle Chambers is one of them. And I remember every day after practice, we saw hundreds of kids, and he and I were the last two on the mats every time. And again, we're the only two that went pro, so it's just insane. The way it started was really just wanting to teach for free. I used to hate that they made us charge at the end, because for 5 years, it was free. If you wanted to learn, I wanted to teach you. It was that simple. So, yeah, it was a bit selfish because I like hurting people, but a bit selfless because I like teaching people to defend themselves.
The big issue is getting funding through a school to have an opportunity to go and travel with your friends and go and meet a bunch of other fighters who love the same thing as you. But to get people involved in the sport and interested in the sport, you have to sell them an intangible thing.
Yeah.
And it's not a product. You just have to say, trust that this will essentially change your life, change your focus, your goals, whatever you have, whatever you're struggling with. This is a way to let it out and learn a skill. It's pretty hard to sell to somebody. So I would say that's a big hurdle, going back to before, of not only on the school side, but getting that roster built. It's lucky to have that group that wanted to keep meeting and wanted to grow and wanted to find others.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough.
How big was that initial group for you guys?
Well, it was you, me, Cole, Tim, probably a handful of other guys,
8 to 10.
Mark, 8 to 10, then it grew to 20s, then we started getting girls coming in, 30s, 40s, and then when I left, it kind of died out, but Julio tried to run it for a year.
25 for a year or so, down to about 15, and then
Julio, it was 7, 8 guys. But then it got better, again, because after Max came in and Patrick, the kid I gave you this, again, it got back up to 7, so they need to get to 10 for us to get salaries, so that'd be nice.
And then at the time when you guys were creating your MMA club, did you know, because I know social media was kind of starting to build up at that point, but did you know about other clubs in the country that were doing the same thing, or was that completely unheard of?
That was us. Like, I looked hard and I called around. I didn't understand why there weren't any other MMA clubs, and just because it was so hard to get the insurance, to go through the hoops. They knew someone was going to get hurt, and every one of our events, someone got knocked out, leg broken. I mean, it's just in a combat sport where you're trying to hurt people, people get hurt.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
And do you know how many MMA clubs exist now?
Oh,
like in the United States?
Yeah, 14.
14.
So there's 14 in the United States. Again, a few of them don't want to participate. They just want to do the sport and train. But the ones that I want to compete against, there's 11 in Division 1, 2 in Division 2.
And what is your vision for how do you want to contribute to MMA clubs in the United States for the next couple of years? What's your mission look like right now?
Helping kids do what I did, but actually make it worth it. Give it a validation that wasn't there before, in the sense that, hey, I run a club and I get $200 a week to actually run this MMA club. And they would have me and Greg take a team van and drive them to California to do a wrestling tournament. Then we all go to the beach and wrestle. Like, that's been my dream forever. Just be a coach, be a good one. So, in the end, I want to be double division champions. That's very doable. We could have our NAU team be champs this year. But the Division 1's going to be rough, because our UAB team is like one person. And there's way more than one fighter needed to win a championship. So it's going to be a while. Yeah, we're going to figure it out. But I'm just excited to travel, train, and just see what happens in the new world.
Do you have any particular idols that you look up to kind of what's the word for it? Kind of plan your journey forward? Do you have any idols you look up to in the sport that have helped you design your game plan of how you want to be a good coach and be a good influence to these kids?
Who's your idol coach-wise? I don't know.
Trevor Whitman lately.
Yeah.
He's stood out quite a bit. He just invests in his fighters. Just through every aspect of their life, he wants to be involved and wants to make sure that they're thriving so that they can go out on game day, essentially, fight night, and perform. But he also tells them to enjoy the process. I think that's the biggest thing. What we want to get for these guys coming up is an opportunity for something. But for me, when I met Jimmy and I knew the group was small, it was a chance to go and hit the heavy bag once or twice a week. And I didn't have that, so I think that if we can provide a little bit more, that's growth and makes me happy.
I'd say I'm trying to model after American Top Team. They've always been my favorite. They literally have a specialist from every part of the country for that martial art. They have a judo guy from Japan. So I found my friend in Tucson. He was a judo Olympian. He's from Japan. They have a Brazilian guy from Brazil. They have any and everything you can think of. They sponsor the Golden Knights in Florida. And the entire college championship is rigged for them to win the Division I. They've won it 3 years in a row. And I found out why. The NC2 director called me and said that they got in trouble for fraud. McGregor and his coach basically would pay these kids, the captains of the Golden Knights, basically Patrick, the kid that gave me this tonight, to go on campus of any college campus and say, hey, you want to make $500 this weekend? They would take him off the street, put him in the ring against American Top Team trained college fighters.
Oh, wow.
No shit, they're going to get knocked out and choked out in less than a minute because they're going against pros that train with pros, and they're going and they're scooping up garbage kids. So my thing is we got to give them real competition.
Was that, and what's the, you might have already explained this too, but what's the purpose of doing that? Is that to beef up your records so that way you can progress forward through the sport?
In boxing, they call it like fostering a fighter. You start with tomato cans, guys that are garbage and have a losing record. Then they give you someone that's a contender but not too good, probably has an injury. Then you get someone that's actually well known, and if you beat them in a big fashion, that's your title shot. It's very similar to MMA. It's just a little dirtier.
I think it might be helpful for somebody who might be listening. We're talking about individualistic like martial arts sports, but then we also talk about teams. How does one compete on a team? Like, what does that dynamic look like? Like, so, you're building a team of individuals.
We just kind of stuck together and went to tournaments, and we would register as any MMA. But the way it's going to work now is there's the list of weight classes, male and female. So it goes like bantamweight, lightweight, flyweight. We go all the way up to welterweight, middleweight, light, heavy. You take that whole team, they register as a team, they get a discount if they fill up every weight class. Just like in wrestling, Jack, you don't want to give up weight classes and give up those points. So even if you just have a body that breathes, like we're trying to find a heavyweight right now. At any of the colleges, I can't seem to find a guy that's 270 pounds and sticks around. Like most of the time they come to one, like, this is hard, and they never come back.
How do you keep motivating somebody like that? Or is it just like you let them go and try and find somebody else? Or is there a way to get people to come back?
They decide to open it or not.
I think there's just people made for it, people not made for it.
That's a great question.
I think you can push someone or motivate them to get involved and really take an interest in it. But yeah, someone who walks in, gets thrown on their ass and really wants to come back the next day, they're the one that you're going to see at the club for the next few years.
Yeah.
You can give them that opportunity, show them the coolest moves that you know, but they're not going to take it. They're just gone usually pretty quick.
Sure. Yeah. And this may be a bit of a hypothetical question, but how do you, as far as timeline goes, how do you guys see the sport progressing in the next 5-10 years or whatever? What do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a slow progression, or is it building steam?
I would tell you got to go devil's in the details. Yeah. So 6 weeks, I say we're going to be where we are now. 6 months, things are going on a little better. We're doing team duels, we're doing events, we're getting ready for nationals. And then hopefully in 6 years, double division champ. Woo. Sorry. I feel like we've reached like a head. We've gone over a lot of good stuff though.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know as much about this type of content either, but
I mean, going over maybe some of the like basics of the sport, it depends on who's going to be listening, who's going to want to know what about it. Go. Yeah.
So basically the way it works is there's 8 striking surfaces. Greg can hit me with his hands. Greg can hit me with his elbows, his knees, or his kicks. The kicks are my least favorite. He broke my rib in college, never forget. Like zip right here. So the thing is, when the match starts, you start at the opposing edge of the cage, you walk in, they make your gloves touch. The reason they do this is a lot of people, me, will hide things in their gloves to cheat. I used to put baby powder or some shit so I could blow it right in their eyes and they're blind. That shit was fun. But now they have rules and reps and all this stuff, which is good. So they make sure we don't do any of those things. Okay, so what ends up happening is if we get into the clinch, this is another vital position of the sport. This is called over-under position because he has an underhook on one side, and if you look, he has an overhook. I am in the exact same position. This lets me knee or throw elbow strikes. We go on and on about the clinch and stuff, but basically what ends up happening is usually a throw or a takedown. You just hit me with a hard shot. I fall. From this position, this is called open guard. He's going to grab my ankles and just try and beat my ass, basically, and this shit sucks. I've been here many a times. What'll end up happening is he'll pass my feet to the side, getting to what's called side control. So there's no specific points in MMA, but if you get to these positions, you have a better chance of striking without being striked. The last and most important is mount, but we start with knee on belly. Knee on belly is important because Greg can hit me, but I can't hit him. Yeah. The last would be back. If you take someone's back, I'm really well known for this. I call it the lion killer choke. Rear naked choke for people being specific. Bicep. He inhales, I go sleep. Awesome. The way the sport works is you're trying to either finish your opponent with a strike, one of the 8 that we covered earlier, a submission like I did tonight with the triangle choke, or points. So what'll happen is my biggest fan in the back, she gives me a 10, okay? If 3 rounds go by and Greg does not defend himself at all, that would be like a 10-1. That never happens. Because if it was a 10-1, they would end it. Normally you'll hear 10-9 because the guy fought and it was close. 10-8, it really wasn't that close. 10-7, what are you doing in there? Like, you shouldn't be alive. But yeah, you shouldn't let it go to the judges. You should always try and go for a finish. Because I've had it where I've literally hit, stopped, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he hits me with one good one. Fight ends, he wins the decision. Because all the judge saw was the snap and my mouth crack and my eyes wince. Because they look for the big things. It's pretty annoying. That's why I do really aggressive and flashy shit, because my coach says, he's like, that's what they pay attention to. Yeah.
Do you think, and I know it's an older system, so maybe not, but do you think the scoring will change as far as like the sport evolving?
Yeah,
it seems very subjective, huh?
Right now there's only 3 judges, and the rough part is they can't see all the angles. In karate, they have 4, and I think that's brilliant. Yeah. Because I've had it where a dude nails me, but I 2, 3, and the judges from the 3 angles saw my shots over the 1. Right. So that's a good way of doing it. It's the 4 corners. Yeah. But, yeah. Can you walk us through what happened tonight? Yeah. I got shit on by Pat. That was rough. It was pretty tough. I tried hitting him with my steel plate like over and over, and he took it. I think probably my favorite moment is Jack like gets rocked and railed, and he had saved me earlier, so I went to save him, and I back fist, and the guy tries to clinch. I backstep, hit him hard, and he just took it. The kid was a train. But Jack was a lot easier, no offense. I hope he doesn't see this. But well, basically, we touch gloves. I go to the outside. I step to try and get towards my strong line. That's like a better angle in martial arts. He felt it and knew the pressure was coming. So what he ended up doing is tried to raise his guard. I went inside, inhale, heaven breath, high, low. He defended both. So I was like, okay, my boxing's not going to work. I step and I try and get him to put me on the wall because he knows as well as I do, if we're here, I win. He doesn't take the bait. Instead, he tries to kick me in the face. So I feel it go by my hair, and that was kind of cool. I felt it go by the nick of my hair. I went, Jesus. He slips, he stands up. I power double jack, hit him in the sternum, slam both his knees, he eats shit. And then he tried to recover guard, and I wasn't having that shit, so he lay on his back. This is actually a good way of explaining it, Dev. And we might be able to do this on my podcast. I want to make my own, Jack. I'm going to call it Gray Fox Talks.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll interview fighters and coaches about how they fight. But basically, when I took him down, he wanted to get to this open guard position, okay? But what I did is I posted on his shins, and I brought my knee over so that he couldn't pressure back in. As soon as he started to pressure, I brought my knee to his hip and immediately slid to full mount. He's been trained like me, so he tried to survive, which is fine. He tried to hit from the bottom. I gave him props, but I just told him, stop, because I told him, I was like, it's over, man. He didn't want to hear that. He kept trying to struggle. So eventually I tired him out, and I laced his arm in what's called key lock or gift wrap. I hit him once, too. I felt his nose crush. He turned away. That let me bring my knee over. I sat through. He puts pressure in. As soon as we're here, I know 3 points of contact in the triangle. Heel in the hip, top of the head. What I do is grab my shin and lock it down. From there, I wing out, pull the head. He goes to sleep. The dude wouldn't give up, but I mean, I hit him enough and he gave up eventually. No. If it were me, I would have passed out, but that's just me. Now you know?
Now you know. As far as, and I think this is something that with the wrestling background I get a lot, but people have the notion that there's a lot of injuries in mixed martial arts. I know there's some, but how would you guys, in your experience, like rate or compare this sport with other sports as far as injuries?
Football's worse. I'm not trying to be that guy, but it is. Like in football, I dislocated my shoulder and trying to think, got a lot of brain damage going helmet to helmet with kids. Got my tailbone taken out. Like, oh my god.
Right.
Yeah, that was worse.
And most of the injuries that I saw training were just
Little.
bruised ribs,
Little things.
forearm, biceps, anything that was taking contact. That was through a glove.
Yeah.
If you had a bad day, you'd leave with a shiner. Your eye would be bleeding out the corner, but it heals in a few days.
Heals in a few days and you're fine.
Right.
Got a story out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, we switched now. Boom.
And transition.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very broad question.
Uh-oh.
Why do you guys care so much about the sport? Why do you love the sport?
You go first.
It's shaped me.
Mm.
I mean, it was my sport, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody has theirs. That's why it's stuck with me.
Yeah.
Sense of comfort day to day.
Mm-hmm.
Just has to carry with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I want to keep with me and continue to train, but in the process, you have to bring other people with you.
Mm-hmm.
Throw them and let them throw you. Iron sharpens iron.
Steel sharpens steel. That's it,
Best thing
baby.
about it is you get to have someone else go home and they learn something new too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pass that on.
I would just say the mission statement original from 2010 at the MMA Club: camaraderie, confidence, and competence through combat sports. I couldn't be more accurate. Again, yes, a mic drop. There you go.
Anything you guys want to get out into the world?
I was just going to thank our sponsors. There's a lot. We go through, say, Flagstaff, Farmers, 5-Star Collision, Astro, UFC Awatuki, definitely Jason. He is my guy, that GM there. If you ever need anything in Phoenix, hit him up. We're going to try and host an event there probably in April, so stay tuned. You'll be there.
How important is that? Because I know it's something you've been working on a lot, is getting sponsorship and gaining traction like that. Is that difficult? And like how important is that?
I am sorry. Can you repeat the question? I'm pulling
like gaining sponsorship and support in that. Man, I know it's something that you're working really hard on right now. Like, is that a difficult part of this? Is it just part of the
part of the game? Yeah. I just I had to think back and I said, am I selling out? Well, no, not really. It's just what I care about, what I love, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So, yeah, again, I think it's important. It's important because without the sponsors and without the money, you can't make your passion pay. I'll find a way. Just give me time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.